Dennis Wilder is a former special assistant to U.S. President George W. Bush and worked as senior director for East Asian Affairs at the National Security Council. He's currently a senior fellow at Georgetown University and managing director of the school's initiative for U.S.-China dialogue on global issues. I asked him if these new forms of dialogue between Beijing and Washington show promise.
I think that the ability to focus in each of these dialogues at the cabinet level on the key issues in the relationship is a good thing. And to have cabinet level representation in all of these dialogues means that it really does get the attention of the top of the American political system. So in that way, I think it is good. I found the old dialogue to be rather large and unwieldy. I think this is being broken into more manageable pieces.
The vice premier greeted by Rex Tillerson today in just brief comments on camera, but he mentioned that they're going to talk about the Trump visit, setting the agenda. You know what these kinds of meetings are like when the cameras are off and they're sitting there. Give me the give and take. What goes on in something like that? And how do you set an agenda for this meeting? Because both sides want to go in and be able to come out of a meeting like this being successful.
Right. Well, I think that one of the issues that Tillerson wanted to bring up was access for American media in China. Chinese media has a pretty free rein here in the United States. It's a little less that way in China, and I think he wanted to bring that issue up with her and see if they couldn't find a way to make it a little smoother. But otherwise, on the level of positive developments, what they would talk about is how do we increase the number of American students going to China? How do we fund and help students coming to the United States? You know, we have over 300,000 Chinese students now studying in the United States. 1 out of every 3 foreign students in the United States is Chinese. A tremendous group of students and interaction with U.S. culture. We're trying to boost it on the American side into China. Right now, only about 14,000 American students go to China. It was announced today, for example, that on the Fulbright, the Committee of 100, which is a group of Chinese Americans, prominent Chinese Americans, is giving $1 million to the State Department to fund more American Fulbright scholars going to China. So in the people-to-people dialogue, what you're really trying to do is see where we can work at the more basic level, building understanding, having students go to each other's countries, having entrepreneurs. There's going to be an entrepreneurial seminar later this year to try and sort of build those links and connections below the state-to-state level.
That may be the easy part, because we know that Rex Tillerson's off to Beijing, and there's a lot of sticky issues. Of course, the DPRK, first among them. Talk to me about that. Where do you go from here? Because, I mean, there's only so much ratcheting up of pressure, and there's only so much pressure China can bring to bear.
Well, the hope is, and first of all, I'd commend China for what it has done in terms of implementing the UN sanctions. We're really at a point where finally we have tough sanctions on the North Koreans. I think that there is hope that what will happen is the North Koreans will realize that the squeeze they are under now is counterproductive for their people, for their society, and that they will begin to move back toward being willing to go to the negotiating table. The U.S. side has said quite clearly it's willing to go back to the table with the North Koreans as long as they're willing to discuss denuclearization. I think that it is possible that the sanctions will move the North Koreans in that direction.
Dennis Wilder there speaking to us earlier.